Hi, I'm Jack and welcome back to the Vapourcore channel. Today we're going to have a look at the EZ Watt kit from Innokin. It's a wonderful pocket-sized little box mod starter kit. Has a very simple power adjustment style with a low, medium and high setting. That little mod is paired with the T20S tank from Innokin. It's a wonderful little flavour tank with 0.8 ohm coils that will come pre-installed and 1.5 ohm coils. So you've got options for a little bit more vapour or a bit more solid mouth to lung action. So let's open the box up and see what's inside and get this up and running. So here we are up close with the kit itself. This is the box it will come to you in. Side note that the colour of the device on the actual box will be the colour inside, so this will be a grey one we're looking at. All your standard TPD warnings on the front. Innokin branding, name of the device EZ Watt, and Innokin branding again on the side. This side is plain with a little pull tab. Kit will slide out. Some more branding on here. It says EZ Watt, so you know which kit you have. Plain on the back and plain everywhere else. So it's a little flip box. And then you have your kit itself on this side, where it says innovation inside, and accessories, which houses your accessories in there. So you've got a little pull tab here, flicks up and pulls up. Get a little information card, which we'll run through in a second. And you'll find the kit itself with a spare top cap, which replaces the top fill cap, which I'll show you in a second, which with an integrated mouthpiece. Spare coil head, one inside there already as well. And this is like a little box of accessories. I'll tip everything out so you can see everything out in front of you. Cool. So inside here, you get a little instruction manual with everything broken down into individual parts for you, which we'll do as well, so you can see everything very easily. And then how to fill and replace the coils in the tank. Inside here, you have a little safety and warning card, warranty cards, battery care, and some stickers. Some spare O-rings also, always handy. And your charge cable. It's the iTaste one. We've had these for a long time from Innokin. Really durable, just solid little charging cables. So everything on the kit side of the box is now out here. Only 4 little things here. Have the battery itself. So you've got a little display here, which once we're setting the device up, we'll go through thoroughly. So you have your power button and like an adjustment or other button. USB charging port on the side. The grey finish the whole way around with some Innokin branding. And EZ Watt on the side again, following the theme from the box. Underneath you have some information about which power each setting runs at. So if you want to pause that, you have a look for yourself. And your 510 connection on the top. Very nice rubberized finish on this as well. It's slightly grippy but not sort of sticky rubbery, which I really like that. The tank itself here, if you're familiar with the Endura series, it will be very, very similar to you. So you have a top filling system at the top. Twist off, so the whole little black plastic section will twist out, pop off. Really wide, easy filling port, so anywhere between the sides of the tank and the coil head in the centre you can put your liquid into, which is wonderful. 510 size drip tip as well with this cap, so if you wanted to use a different drip tip but you like this top cap, perfect, all sorted. And changing the coil, once again, if you're familiar with the Endura series, it will be the same as all the other ones, but we'll show you very quickly. So you untwist the little cap on the bottom, and you see there's a pin with the airflow at the bottom. So what you do is you pull this little piece out, and your coil is this whole sort of chimney section, which is really good. It gives you fantastic flavour, just because the coil is very close to your mouth. You can see in there. And the only thing to bear in mind when we are changing the coil is that you see there's 2 little flat cuts on the sides. Try and get the light off it. So you can see they're sort of flat on the left and right hand side. So they have to line up with the little sort of tracks on here. Maybe you can see that way. So you see there's like 2 little raised sort of lumps on the sides. You have to get the coil to line up perfectly with that. So when you put it in, hard to do on camera. So see, that's not sitting quite flush at the moment. It's slightly offset. So just twist it, get that lined up, and then you'll see it just push straight in very, very easily. Easy way to tell if it's on, when you screw this little cap back on, If it's in straight, it will screw in flush, but if it isn't, it normally sits about a quarter or half of a twist off. So it'll sit like that. And that's when you're prone to leaking because the tank isn't making a very tight and perfect seal, basically. It's the 0.8 ohm coil already pre-installed. And the spare coil head here in the little plastic wrapping is a 1.5 ohm. So this will be, once again, similar to the older Endura series tanks. But this is the latest updated version, so they've changed the airflow ever so slightly and introduced new coil heads as well. Might say, coil heads absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And also on the side, same as all the Innokin other ones that come in the same packaging, you've got your recommended wattage, which is also printed on the side of the coil. And as I mentioned earlier, you do also get another top cap, which this is all one piece. So see, the drip tip doesn't come out, it doesn't twist. So to use this cap, all you do is just twist the top off of if you were filling the device and replace it with this one. Makes it look ever so slightly different, but it's more about what feels more comfortable on your lips, to be honest, because the difference in looks isn't massive. So it depends on what you like the feel of to use. Personally, I prefer the standard sort of like chest piece style drip tip, as I've used tanks for a long time that have this style, so I'll stick with that. So here is the device ready to go, minus juice, and it's turned off. So we'll show you how to get that all up and running now. Very quick side note, we've got two new juices added to our Vapourcore core line of juice. Both 50-50 blends, menthol breeze and gold tobacco. Quite easy to guess what the flavours are. This is a really, really solid menthol flavour. Not too similar to Nice Ice, but if you like one, you'll definitely like the other, I think. Nice Ice is more of a minty flavour, whereas this is definitely more cold menthol sort of feeling. And gold tobacco is a really solid sort of RY4 style tobacco juice. Caramelly, biscuity sort of note with a really solid tobacco sort of body to it. I'm a big fan of both of these, but we are going to use the gold tobacco today. So it's zero nicotine, just for the sake of this video, as that's what we put in our tester tanks, so we'll be using this as our tester bottle for now. So to fill the device, I'll pop the tank off just so I can show you how to use the mod in a later sort of segment. So tank is taken off. You can fill the tank while it's still on the mod, but just for the video we're going to take it off. So you untwist the little black plastic segment on the top, which is threaded. See the O-ring come out? And you see the big gap between the coil and the sides of the tank. So anywhere around the sides here, you can fill your juice in there. So what you do is, I like that. You can fill this tank up almost right up to the brim, which is wonderful, as long as you don't really go above the actual coil inside. Take your top cap and just twist that back in. Make sure it's nice and tight, but not so tight you have to fight it to get it off. I'm going to leave that for a couple of minutes just to soak up. I would normally prime other coils that are sub-ohm, but the holes on these coils aren't the biggest, so if you do prime it, you're not going to get too much liquid in there. You can prime them, I would probably recommend doing so, but you can just fill the tank up and leave it for 5 to 10 minutes just so we know it's fully soaked up. As you can see, there's little bubbles coming up from the holes on the coil head. That's a good sign. That means the juice is actually being absorbed into the cotton. So last thing to get up and running will be your mod itself. Very, very simple. So you've only got two buttons to worry about. You've got the power button and your power adjustment button in a way. It's hard to sort of describe what this button's actually primary function is because its main function is when you press the two together. Again, I'll go through that in 2 seconds. So to turn the device on and off as it stands a bit all Innokin stuff, it's only 3 presses rather than the normal regular 5 presses, which is really handy, makes it a bit quicker and easier. 5 button 3 times, 1, 2, 3. See, it will flash at you 3 different colours, so it goes red, amber and green. That's also the battery gauge, so when you're using the device, I'll try and keep most of my fingers out of the way so you can see the light on it. You see the light's green at the moment, so that means we have a good level of battery. Yellow is low battery, or amber, whichever colour you think it looks closer to, you can go with that. And red means low battery. From personal experience with Innokin things, I use the T18, which is one of their older devices. I use that day to day, so I know when it gets to red battery, you'll probably need to charge the device almost ASAP, because that's sort of like a charge me as soon as you possibly can sort of warning from the device almost. And to adjust the power, so see when I press this button, the little light gets brighter or dimmer. So that is where I'll refer back to this little card that comes in the box. So you can see on this card, over here, you have the lights and if it's bright or not. So these are like little recommendations for what they say. Also, it's on the bottom of the device as well. So you don't need to carry that little card with you so you can see. So in the dimmer modes, it will be 13, 16, or 30. And in the brighter modes, it will be 14, 18, or 35 watts roughly. So it's always good to have some sort of reference actually on the device. If you don't have a screen, that's something very handy. I'm a big fan of that. And to change the power from low, medium, or high, you hold the two buttons down together. So you'll go up to the blue setting and the white setting. Low, medium, or high is your preference. We'll put this on the medium one just because middle, safe ground, there's a bit to go up and a bit to go down. And then you can see when I press the button, it will go brighter and dimmer. That's a preference again. I'll just leave it on the standard mode so you can see the middle power in the standard sort of output setting, just to give you a good median sort of reference. Again, the same with every other tank, standard 510 threading and connection. Screws in. One thing to add, everything on this device feels really well made, especially at this sort of price point. The Innokin starter kits to me have been some of the top around in recent years. I actually use what they see as a starter kit as my normal day-to-day carry-around device. So I highly recommend them, and this is no exception. It's sort of just the next generation of what I'm used to using. Perfect. So the device has been sitting and soaking for the past couple of minutes, so it should be ready to give it a try. So let's see how it performs. As you can see, it'll probably be easy to see when you're further out and you're actually looking at me from a bit of a distance. But the vapor production is actually really, really good. These sort of starter devices, they either don't give you enough, or if they do give you a decent amount of power, the quality isn't there. This device bridges both gaps really well. Everything feels really solidly built. There's no sort of jingle from the buttons that you can really notice. And equally, even if you can, you're not going to be shaking it. But it's something worth noting. All the buttons are nice and clicky, as you can hear. So there's no worry about is it pressed, because sometimes with mushy sort of buttons, you're like, is that pressed? Yeah, and then you hear it fire and it's fine. Whereas this is a nice firm, solid snap sort of sound, which is perfect, so you know what you're doing. Yeah, overall it's a really solid little device. So let's go up and talk about the pros, cons, and who I would recommend this device to and why. So we have broken the device down, spoken about it, and shown you how to set it up. So now we're going to do, as always, pros, cons, and who I'd recommend it to and why. First of all, the pros with this device, there's quite a lot of them. So really just a solid little starter kit, which even someone, myself, that's been vaping for 3 or so years, something that I'd happily use day to day. Nice small size, wonderful build quality. The battery life is really solid on these as well. It's a 1,500 milliamp hour battery. I don't know if I'd mentioned that in any other part, but the battery capacity is really, really decent, especially for a little small device like this. Fit in anyone's pockets, it's perfect. Another thing is the durability. Innokin stuff, to me, is some of the most durable. I've had T18 kits and I've dropped them, kicked them, and bounced them down the road. Not that I'd ever recommend doing so, but it's happened. And they don't seem to break, and these are very similar. We've seen customers come in and they look battered and beaten, but they still perform the same as the day they got them, which is absolutely phenomenal. I'm a big fan of Innokin's build quality, personally. Both from personal experience and customer feedback as well. Another thing I like is that there are options with this device as well. The adjustable power is a great little feature because there's nothing too complex. It's if you've already had a kit which is a set power, but you want something you can slightly control, but you don't really want like something with a full-on screen and up and down, have to worry about wattage and things. This is great. So you've got the sort of low, medium and high settings, which the wattage is on the bottom. I would say to stick to the bottom two though. I was vaping it on the highest setting and the coil was starting to get like a little bit burnt towards the end of a longer puff. So I'd stick to the two lowest settings, which would be 13 or 14 watts for the low one, depending on if it's on the high or the low mode, and 16 or 18 watts if it's on the medium setting. Yeah, so that would be for the 0.8 ohm coil. I'd recommend sticking to the middle sort of power. And for these 1.5 ohm coil, the spare one that comes in the box for you, I'd recommend just to stick to the low one. 13 or 14 watts is what the coil actually recommends. So it was meant to be. Just keep it on the lowest setting and that'll give you a really nice mouth to lung style vape. This is still mouth to lung, but it's got a little bit more of an open puff with the 0.8 ohm coil that I found. Just because the airflow is on the bottom, whereas with all of the previous Endura series devices, the airflow has been from the bottom on the actual base of the coil, whereas this is on the side of the tank like a regular sort of sub-ohm tank. So you do get a very smooth and slightly more open airflow. So yeah, overall, I'd say the strong points of this device are the build quality, the battery life, performance is really good, the flavour on this tank is absolutely great. I think deceptively so. People would see it as like a smaller sort of starter kit, like, how good can it be? And I find when you try it, you actually get a really nice full sort of flavour. Yeah, really smashed it with these coil heads that are in here. I think they're great. Lifespan-wise, they're pretty good as well. Last you 2 weeks or so, give or take. Once again, depends on your usage and what settings you're using. But I found there seems to be really good coil heads. They're not going to burn out on you in a day or so. Brings us into the cons. I want to clear something up very quickly with the cons, which is linked to the last pro that I mentioned about the coil heads. Had a few people mentioning that came back to us that the coils that shipped with some of the early batches in the box only, the other packs were perfect. Inside there was a couple of the coils that we had coming back to us that were a little bit off. They may have been slightly leaky, or they may have just burnt out very quickly. That was just a teething problem with the coil heads. Now, very, very rarely, if ever, get any sort of problems, or if we do get problems, it doesn't stand out more than any other device that we get in. So it shows that Innokin are actually looking into issues and resolving them, which is great. And from one of the veteran sort of companies in vaping, these guys have been around from before I was vaping. I remember the Cool 4 had just come out. They had 3 versions previous, which is great. So it's good to see an older company still sticking around and keeping up with the times, where a lot of companies are trying to do really powerful tanks and powerful mods. Innokin do that, but they also stick to the really solid starter kits. And the only other con that I found is something that just, due to the 0.8 ohm coil being sub-ohm, people would probably be expecting big, huge, thick clouds. It's not really that sort of a device in general. It's more of a slightly lower ohm mouth-to-lung-ish vape. You can get a restricted lung here. Like you can see, it's not lacking in vapor production, but you'll see. If someone said to you they've got a new sub-ohm tank, you'd probably be thinking to give you a bit more vapor. It's very similar to the Aspire Nautilus 0.7, which gives you a bit more of a gutsy kind of mouth-to-lung to restricted lung hit vape. You can restricted lung hit it, but I think it just lends itself more to that mouth-to-lung sort of style, especially with this sort of drip tip, which is most common on mouth-to-lung devices. You can see it. That's sort of I call it the chest piece style tip. So it looks like a little pawn where it sort of tapers in. And it's just very comfortable on the lips as well. Also, I'll show you the other cap on there as well. Just swapped it over to the other one, which is the one-piece sort of cap and drip tip. I'm just going to see how that performs and tell you what I think about that and how I feel about it. It's noticeably a lot thinner. That's the first thing that I will say. Let's see how it actually vapes. I'll be honest, there's not really a noticeable difference. This will just be a preference. If you like a thinner sort of tip, this will probably be more your sort of thing. Whereas the other one, you've got the bit where it tapers in. So even though it's probably about the same sort of diameter, it just feels a little bit bigger in the mouth. And that's just a preference. If you like wider, narrower sort of tip, because the bore through the centre is still relatively wide, about the same as the other one, it's not going to give you a tighter sort of puff. So that's just a preference. So something I thought I'd drop in the video just to mention it. So as always, if you are interested in the device, we have them in all of our stores. Also available online at Vapourcore.com. We will leave the link to our website down below, as well as the link to this page, this product's page specifically. So you can see all the colours. Come in a whole range of colours. Personal favourites of mine are the grey. Really like it. You don't see a lot of grey devices, so I'm a big fan of that. The all black, which goes with everything. And also they make a navy, which is really cool. Another colour we don't see enough of, and I think it looks really, really nice and classy sort of thing. Also have different colours. I think there's a purple, there's a black and red crackle sort of finish, which looks really great. So check online, see what we have on the website, and see which is your favourite. So once again, thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Con Pepe. Okay. Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome to Wonky Box channel. Oh no! Right. So we have broken device.